morning, ladies and gentlemen, to all those that are listening in, those that have logged in on our webinar, at the comfort of your offices, of your homes, wherever you are. I'd like to welcome you to our yet another edition of our webinars that we've been having. We are currently undertaking a taxpayers appreciation season. We started on 13th of October of this year and will be going on till December. During this season, we'll be appreciating our taxpayers over the year, those that have contributed generously and those that have been able to pay their taxes diligently. We'll be having a number of activities that will be going on. We'll be having Born by Our Business seminars, where we'll be having engagements with our traders, updating them on the current URA business that is going on. And also, we'll be moving around the districts around the country, appreciating our clients for the diligence they've been paying their taxes. So today we'll be having another topic that we'll be discussing. Just like we've been having in the past, we've been having a number of webinars that are going on. Some of these are the WT8 conversion, common mistakes in customs documentation, enhanced automation for improvement of clearance, and cargo. This has been an effort for customs to reach out to the public, to reach out to the stakeholders of customs, and bring customs closer to the public, to the people and our stakeholders. Today we'll be having a topic, the role of customs agents. And with me to delve into this topic is Alfred Okoya, Supervisor Customs, Legal and Bonds. And we'll be having Dan Mugabo, who is Acting Supervisor Customs, assisting his office. So without delay, let me invite Alfred to take us through the presentation. As he's making his presentation, please feel free to send in your questions. We'll be able to respond to them in due course. Alfred, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Robert, and thank you to the media team. I'm indeed very happy to be here this morning to make a presentation on the role of customs agents. This presentation comes it's indeed very timely because we are currently undertaking licensing for the next financial year for the clearing agents. And indeed, it's important that we all appreciate or remind ourselves of our roles, obligations, rights, and mandates as provided for by the law. We shall be doing this interchangeably with my colleague Dan. But as an overview, we would like to understand who a clearing agent is. There are a lot of mixed ideas out there in the public on who a proper licensing officer is, or rather a clearing agent is. Then what's the legal basis? Do they just jump out of nowhere? Where do they derive their mandate from? Why does one require services of a clearing agent? We want to understand that too. How does a trader differentiate between a genuine complex, and for an ordinary importer or exporter, you may not have the experience or expertise to do this work on your own. It involves the technical knowledge of the customs business. When you look at the declaration in itself, we have about 53 boxes. The 54th is a declaration that your declaration is genuine. But you have 53 boxes to input, and they must be accurate by law. If you make any error, it's penalized, or you may be penalized under the law. So to save our clients from all these complexity and the legal requirements, we encourage them to engage the services of qualified and trained clearing agents. That notwithstanding, we have a provision for the large retailers or wholesalers who import their goods and desire to make declarations on their own. We conduct training and ensure that we license them accordingly to be able to do that work on their own. So much as there's a provision for clearing agents, you are still allowed by law to conduct that business on your own, as long as you're comfortable and confident that you have mastered it. So we have such players in the market who do that kind of work, import their goods, export, and have their in-house clearing units. Now, probably Dan will take you through the other aspects, a couple of slides, then I can come back and sum it up before we can get into an interactive session.
Thank you, Alfred. On the next slide on how can a trader differentiate a fake clearing agent from a genuine one. Licensed clearing agents are issued license certificates, which they are asked to display in their offices. They have IDs of their companies, but one major check for them is that when you are appointing a clearing agent, as the procedure, you appoint them through your TIN. So when an agent gives you a TIN and you put it in the URL portal appointing him to do your business and doesn't reflect, that is a fake clearing agent. Most of our clearing agents have taken up the uniforms. They put on uniforms just like us officers. They also have membership in the different associations. So it is easy for one to identify a fake clearing agent if you can also access our website, the URL portal. The list of all the clearing agents and their respective employees are displayed. Which clearing agents have we licensed for this year? Last year we received around 650 applications. They were taken through the vetting process, and around 550 managed to get through the sieving. So as we speak, we have 562 companies licensed this year. We are going into another session of receiving more applications. The license is annual, so come 31st December, those who have been licensed for 2020 will go off, and those who have gone through the process for this year will be put on the system. Companies that we have banned, any company that is found fraudulent in its activities, that is under section 145 of the Yakima. They are suspended, revoked completely, or suspended until they clear the matter that has been brought forward to us, either by the client or when we identify it through the system. So the banning goes on throughout the year. There are those that we ban for good, and there are those that you suspend until the matter that has been brought forward is cleared. Sometimes we find that some might have overlooked some of the licensing conditions, so we get them through the year, we suspend them. The other question is, how does a clearing agent involve himself or herself in fraud? There are many ways that are not limited to the ones that we are going to present, but all of them must be around the relationship between the taxpayer and the agent who represent the taxpayer to us. So presenting fake documents during the licensing exercise, because we take it very serious that for someone who presents fake documents when they are trying to get a license, that's a red flag for us that this person might not represent the clients to us very well. So this is an automatic knockout. Charging taxes that are not, that is not a position of URA. That is when we have an assessment, but the agent goes ahead and doctors the document to show an assessment that is not from us. When we detect that, that is also a knockout for them. Failure to account for consignments to the taxpayer. Sometimes we get issues where a clearing agent has been given a job to do to deliver a consignment, but the taxpayer is not seeing it. So when we intervene and find that the clearing agent has been playing around with the taxpayer's consignment, that's also very serious matter to us. And of course, facilitating smuggling in any form. I think those are few, but there are many others that anything that goes against the Yakima can lead to a clearing agent being suspended or the license revoked for good. I think my colleague Alfred can take you through the next topic.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's clear from the presentation that the trajectory has to be clear. For us to deliver optimally, we must align our values with our very strategic partners, the clearing agents. So if we are moving to the left and they do not move with us, then there's a deep and big mismatch. So our values should be synchronized when we promise our clients.
Such undesired impositors or agencies that do not deliver according to the standards that are prescribed, or the bar that do not meet the bar and the tests that have been put in place. We have reformed the clearing processes, starting from the vetting, which is quite rigorous. We actually undertake a verification of legal documents provided by the clients. For example, the fact that a company is properly incorporated, we actually verify them. We carry out due diligence. We inspect the physical premises of the clearing agencies. We do compliance checks against some of the key performance indicators that we have. And we also conduct competence tests to ensure that the people that we are granting access to the customs system possess the required expertise and skills that are required. For example,
You are aware that customs now operates in a very highly automated environment, which therefore requires that you must possess the key performance indicators. We have about 12 areas that we focus on. We look at the clearance time. How much time does it take you to lodge a declaration, report for verification, have the taxes paid, if there's any additional taxes or additional documents required for you to provide customs? How long does it take you to respond? Clearance time is very important to us. Data error. How much error do you usually have in your declarations? Is it usually a mistake or an indicator of competence issues or carelessness? We look at the amount of error that you have in data captured. We also look at the number of offenses that have been detected in your declarations over the period of time under review. We look at indicators of fraud. Do we see glaring signs and intentions to defraud taxes or your client in your declarations? Do you make deliberate false declarations? We look at how many outstanding payments do you have when you've made 50 declarations? How many have not been paid for? So those are the assessed outstanding taxes. Percentages of taxes collected with top-up. It means you underdeclared or undervalued your goods, and ultimately, upon document vetting and other reviews, you're found to have additional taxes to pay. Percentage of outstanding transit entries. How many of your T1s are outstanding? What are the numbers of tariff abuses that we have detected in your declarations? Do you have any cases of unauthorized use of passwords? You know, once we grant you access to the URS system, the customs system, you're under an obligation to protect its integrity. So do we performances? Now, ultimately, this translates into the cases of non-compliance definitely have an impact. They have gross adverse impact on the taxpayer or the Uganda Revenue Authority, and in most cases, the taxpayers directly. What are some of these issues? We have cases of delays. You know, for a trader, time is everything. Time is money. And so is it to the Uganda Revenue Authority. We collect money to support the operations of the government. So when delays are caused by unprofessional conduct of our most valued partners, this really takes us back. And then sometimes the unsuspecting traders entrust clearing agents with a lot of money. And so if you have agents that lack the required integrity, such monies are diverted to their private use, and ultimately it occasions losses to these clients. And then when you have a clearing agent who is not qualified to do what they're doing, we have been the amount of taxes that we collect, the accuracy, depends heavily on the accuracy of a declaration and our ability to profile and detect any inaccuracies. So when we have cases where agents have made false declarations or falsified certain documents and misled the customs officer, then losses are occasioned to the government, which is definitely very undesirable. Other aspects go as far as some of the compliance measures that are taken up. You are aware that certain cases have ended up in courts of law, and we've had people convicted. Some clients have found themselves misled and dragged into fraudulent dealings, or some agents have been excited by their clients and dragged into fraudulent dealings, and some of them have ended in the courts of law and in prison. So you know the cost of administering criminal justice is not low, and that is some of the costs that the government has had to get into. So for now, this is our presentation. We are open to a Q&A, and we request you to have an open discussion. Participants and to the traders that are tuned in, we also invite your comments, your observations, and where you think we should serve you better, or where you think there are compliments and customs has done very well and we should keep it up. We also take this opportunity to receive such feedback. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alfred and Dan, for that wonderful presentation. Very detailed. I'm sure we have been able to understand who a clearing agent is, and also the legal provision as to how they are established and how they exist, and some of the key performance indicators that we do take into consideration to ensure that the agents that we are dealing with are professional, and they also uphold to our values of professionalism and integrity. This moment, we'd like to welcome all your questions. Please feel free to send in your feedback, your comments, your questions, and we'll be taking them on as they come in. At this moment, I would like to pose some questions to Dan. How does one become a clearing agent? What is the process? You can take us through a step-by-step. How does one become a clearing agent? What are some of the requirements? And probably the period with which one can be or act as an agent, and the costs, if any, for one to become a clearing agent. The other question will go to Alfred. What happens if a clearing agent, you had highlighted on some of the steps or some of the things that URA takes up in case an agent is not professional or exhibits misconduct? What happens when an agent falls short of the standards that we have set? They cannot keep up to the KPIs that we have given or set for them. The other question will go to Dan. I hope you're noting. You spoke about affiliation to associations. Clearing agents are affiliated or are encouraged to affiliate themselves to the associations, the clearing agent associations. What is the importance, or how important is it for a clearing agent to belong to these associations? And The other question to Alfred is how can one lodge a complaint if one has had any, probably a trader or someone out there in the public has had any misunderstanding with the clearing agent? How do they lodge a complaint against the clearing agent? Who do they go to? And how can they seek redress in any of these misunderstandings? I will take those for now. I'll start with Dan as Alfred prepares to respond to the other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. What does one need to become a clearing agent in Uganda? One, the company must be duly incorporated and with the laws of Uganda. So one thing we need to see is a certificate of incorporation, certified company form 7/20, memorandum and articles of association. That is the starting point. The cost involved for application is $50, and all this is done online. You'll find the different areas where you need to fill in or attach some of these documents. We shall need shareholders and directors. They must be duly notarized. A list of these directors and employees must be notarized by the Commission of Oaths. The company particulars in terms of bank accounts, location, physical location of the company, then the national IDs of both the directors and staff, and at least 2 employees of the company must be trained in clearing and forwarding, either a certificate or diploma that is well known from an institution well known, or it is endorsed by the National Institute of Higher Education, Council of Higher Education. Then they must have a valid tenancy agreement. They must also show that they are compliant with all the other taxes as required by domestic taxes, that is income tax, VAT. Then we have, they must have a TCC, that is a tax clearance certificate, to prove that they are compliant with the domestic taxes. One thing that is that we also do for the clearing is that they must do a competence test. Competence test is online. We usually invite them to a competence test at one of the institutions with enough computers so that we can have everyone that is going to get a password to access the custom system. And we communicate the pass mark beforehand. All those that pass are the ones that will be given access. And if there's none of the employees of a certain company passes the test, then that's an automatic knockout. Then for those that are renewing the license, we put into consideration the KPI that shows how they have been performing in the last year. And as advised by customs management, the performance, the threshold where they will stop, all those that fall below won't be considered. Finally, when all this is done, one pays $400. That is the license fee, $400. I think, in brief, that is all we need for one to become a clearing agent. Thank you, Robert.
Well, thank you so much, Dan, for the elaborate presentation on the requirements for licensing. Perhaps I'll just submit something small. The $400 is for 1 year. It's for a 1-year license, but as you're aware, from 2015 we have room for 3 years. Our counterparts in Kenya are already implementing this, But in Uganda, I think we shall soon be issuing or considering that. It's something that management will consider rolling out since it's provided for in the law. Now, my question was, the question to me was that what happens when you have an agent who cannot keep up with the KPIs or with the key performance indicators? Yes, there are instances when an agency may not be able to cope with the trend or with the targets that are given or the expectations of the licensing authority. In which case, first, we may suspend your operation and encourage you to undertake the required preparation. Sometimes it may require skills enhancement, which could be simply remedied by training. It could be that your businesses are not really coming through, so you might have to think about realigning your strategy in terms of business sourcing, because we also expect you to do a certain amount of business. 3, if it's related to fraud, we may suspend you until you demonstrate to the commissioner that you have reformed. So it's clear from all these indicators that they are more reparative than destructive. We look at building you or requesting you to reorganize yourself until you're able to match and produce according to the standards. Any institution has expectations, and in the customs business, such expectations are there. There are targets that you must meet, and when you cannot achieve it, then you're working at a slower pace that slows down the business and brings down the targets that we fail to achieve because you cannot meet the expectations. When it comes to fraud, I'd like to also highlight that a clearing agent is directly responsible for whatever declaration they make on behalf of their client. And that is well covered under Section 147 of the Act. And once a duty accrues, you are actually liable for it as if you are the owner of the goods. And if you commit an offense in the course of making the declaration, whereas the owner of the goods is equally liable, there is that dual liability. Both the importer and the agent can be held liable for it. Of course, the law gives a leeway for an owner who can, or the owner of the goods, if they can demonstrate that they were not party to the fraudulent actions. And then to the agents also, if it can be demonstrated that the owner of the goods consented to the fraud, then you're jointly liable. So that responsibility is there, and it's well documented, and we've been enforcing it. The second question is, how can one lodge a complaint against a clearing agent and seek redress? We've received complaints from both sides. We have instances where clearing agents have come forward and said, you know what, this client gave me these documents and they turn out to be false. And I am not happy to work with them because they are actually affecting my KPIs. Or they have put me into trouble, and we think there should be some action directly against them. And we have, regularly engaged with them. Some have actually been investigated. And so I think it works both ways. Of course, the majority of the complaints are usually against clearing agents by clients. And the avenue is that we encourage clients to do due diligence to ensure that they're working with duly licensed clearing agents. because then it's easier for us. These are people we know, these are people we have contact with, and these are people we engage on a regular basis. So it's easy for us to provide redress or help them address their grievances. There are instances where the cases border on crime, and in such cases we have actually advised the clients to lodge complaints directly with the police. And then there are those that are that can be handled by the licensing authority, that's the commissioner. We have also distinguished such cases and advised the clients to have them addressed internally. So that we have ably provided to the clients. And this has been across the board, both by the Ugandan clearing agents and Kenyan and all this. So we treat our clients in a uniform manner, so to say. So, Mr. Moderator, I think that is what I had. I don't know if you have any other issues coming up.
Thank you very much, Alfred, for responding to the questions. The next question is addressed to Dan. The clearing agents have an association that we encourage them to affiliate themselves to. Which are these associations and what are the benefits or what's the importance of being associated to these agents, being affiliated to these associations?
Thank you, Robert. We encourage clearing agents to have associations. One is to have a common voice, and on the part of your aid, to have a channel that we can reach to them in terms of training, in terms of having new developments, like tax policy matters that we can advise the Ministry of Finance to take on. So these associations are like a vehicle for the clearing agents. You've asked how many associations do we have or are we currently working with? We have USIFA, that is Uganda Clearing Industry and Forwarding Association. We have UFRA, Uganda Freight Forwarders Associations, and then we have UCAF, Federation of Uganda Customs and Freight Forwarders. These also help us when we have a dispute that is not related to taxes. Maybe an agent has an issue with the client and have failed to agree. Most of the time we refer this to the associations because they know the business better and they know the groundwork better than us officers. So associations come in handy in those circumstances. They also partner with us when we have trainings that are to be taken on in terms of regions. Maybe we are going to Malaba, we are going to Mutukula, we are going to Entebbe. We usually go through the associations because the members are the licensed clearing agents. They come together. Some of them have good experience. They are trainers with fellow staff here. So an association, we see associations as vehicles and platforms for us to interlink and come to some decisions with them. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much.
Dan, for the question you've answered, responded to our clients and those that are listening in. Let me read through a set of questions.
There's a question from Rhoda. This I'll pose to Alfred. And she asks, I would like to be advised on how I can retrieve my TIN from a customs agent company that was denied a license due to some offenses. Okay. I would like to be advised on how I can retrieve my TIN from a customs agent company that was denied a license due to some offenses. The other, I'll forward to Dan. This is from an anonymous attendee, and he's asking, we received the guidelines for new applicants, but however, when we try to open, it calls for a password. What could be the issue? As you may be aware, we are currently undertaking the licensing process. It's ongoing. An advert was sent out 2 weeks ago for a period of 30 days. We'll be ending, the link will be closing on the 16th of this month. So I think this is one of the questions addressing, one of the questions that is rising is due to that ongoing process. The other question I would like to pose to Alfred is you spoke of the Kenyan clearing agencies. What is URA, or how is URA preparing to ensure that they get to the same standards or the same KPIs that we are monitoring the Ugandan clearing funds? And what happens if any of these Kenyan
companies fall short of the standards that we have set for the clearing agents? I think Dan can take on first, and then Alfred will respond to the others. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. On the password to access the licensing window, the password that we use on the clearing agent licensing window is the same password for the URI portal. That is the one that you use to log in when you're going to file income returns, VAT, and the like. So that is the same. The username is the TIN, and the password is the password that you use for the URI portal. I think that was the question.
Thank you, Dan.
Alfred?
Thank you, Robert. I'll start with the first one.
Obviously, I suppose Rhoda is a declarant. That's why she has that issue of transferring her TIN from one company to another after one has closed. Well, Rhoda, what you need to do is write a letter, or you can go into the help tool and make that request in the help tool for us to change your TIN from the previous company to the one that you wish to move to. And my advice is that you provide us with documentation from the two companies showing that you worked with them. Of course, the first one showing that you worked for it, and the second one showing that you're currently employed by the new company. We shall handle that very fast and have it effected. Because if there's evidence that the first company is logged off and they have no objection to your movement, we will definitely effect the changes. The second question is the Kenyan and the Ugandan clearing firms. How are we ensuring that, preparing to ensure that they are all measured against the same KPIs? And how do we handle them, or how shall we handle them when there are violations? Well, this is a very good question. I think it's important that we all understand that the law that provides for licensing of clearing agents does not make any difference between a Ugandan and non-Ugandan company. The broad reference is to clearing firms that are licensed to do that business. So we are definitely affected by the same set of prohibitions, same or similar standards in terms of performance, as well as targets. So we are definitely moving towards harmonizing the processes. It's definitely our responsibility to ensure that all the companies that are licensed by the Commissioner Customs Uganda are treated the same. So there is no excuse for anyone to facilitate commission of an offense and get away with it. And neither should we condone anyone who does not meet the standards set for the industry. So this is definitely something that we're already working on, and starting with the new license season, definitely everyone will be measured the same way, and we're working on mechanisms to ensure that the monthly reviews are done for every clearing farm, whether based in Uganda or not. How do we then ensure that if there are violations, they are properly brought to book? In Uganda, we have offices that handle offenses, and we have our offices in Mombasa that will definitely handle anyone who is operating, for example, outside the jurisdiction of Uganda. We are operating as East Africa. So definitely the Mombasa team and the Dar es Salaam team will be able to manage the offenses that are committed in the different places and provide us with returns or an inventory of the results or the outcomes, so that we're able to factor their findings and records into our review process of the performance of the licensed clearing farms. So this will really go a long way into enhancing compliance across the board. So for the agents that are licensed from Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda, we are going to be measuring you the same way to ensure that there is fairness in the industry, and equity demands that we execute this function in that manner. So we encourage all the licensed clearing agents to prepare themselves to meet the targets as put out there for them. For reference purposes, you can always go into the documentation that we advertised to know the key performance indicators. We can share that information, which I believe, as long as you're licensed, then you're aware of the targets and expectations that are there. So there is no doubt that we're going to have that implemented immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alfred, and
done for the response. I'd like to encourage our participants to please forward as many questions as you can. There are quite a number of them that are coming in, and we shall respond to them. That's why we're here. The next question will go to Dan, and this is from Emma. Emma is
asking, would you consider someone who has passed the competence exam twice with a different firm for exemption from receiving that competence test? Would you consider someone who has passed the competence examination twice with a different firm for exemption from receipting? I think this is if they've been exempted from one company and they are transferring to another company, would they be exempt from sitting for that exam? Before that, actually, there's another question from an anonymous participant. He's asking, are there exams for this period? Is there going to be a competence exam for this period of licensing? The next question will go to Alfred. This is from Muchibi Yusuf, and he's wondering, why doesn't URA deal with one association, just like our partner other partner states in the EAC? Why doesn't URA deal with one association or federation of clearing agents, just like the other partner states? I think Dan can go first as Alfred prepares to respond to the other.
Okay, thank you, Robert. On the question on exemption, maybe let me lay out the conditions that they gave and the spirit within which the exemptions came regards to the competence test. Now, the competence test, we had several people passing, that starting with 2017, and the associations through their leaders asked the commissioner to consider if someone has passed highly or above a certain mark, why shouldn't they be exempted for them from the competence test? So many ideas were brought forward, and the agreement was that if someone has passed the test 2 times in the same company, you're exempted. But the moment you switch from that company to another one, you lose the exemption. You sit once, but you won't sit 2 times again. This was in the spirit of giving the directors of the same company, because you hold the password on behalf of the company. So when you're leaving, it should be a 2-way for the company and you, the individual, is leaving. So if you're switching companies, you lose the exemption, but you only sit once. Then the other one is that with the new compliance checks that we are doing and the systems that URA has put in place, some individuals who have been penalizing companies maybe in terms of offenses, tariff abuses, but now we are also drilling down to the individuals. If a user, that is a declarant, has been found to, every entry that they have captured has something to do with the tariff abuse, all this will be documented, and if you're exempted, you lose the exemption. So instead of the company losing the exemption, we shall drill down to the particular individual whose username has been committing those the offenses, the tariff abuses, and we penalize the user, not the company. So for exemption, if you've sat twice in the same company, you're exempted. If you're moving to another company, you sit once for you to get an exemption in the same company. That's
all. Thank you, Dan, for responding to the question. A number of participants are inquiring as to whether they'll be able to access the presentation.
So I forgot to answer about the question for this year's competence test. Yes, this year we have a competence test. We shall be communicating on the way we are going to administer the test. So those who are not exempted, just wait for the communication on what date and mode that we shall administer this year's competence test. Thank you.
Thank you so much, moderator. And thank you, I didn't get the name of
the participant, I think it was anonymous, asking why don't we have one association the way Kenya does. And the question here is that we do not determine how many they should be. So far in Uganda we have 3 associations that are acknowledged or recognized by the Commissioner Customs, and these are the 3 associations. I don't know what criteria we would use to say let's have this and not the other. You know, it's constitutional. Under Article 29, if I may take you there, there's freedom of association. You can choose to belong to Association A for your own reasons, or belong to Association B for your own unique reasons, or belong to C. And we have spelled out the advantage or the benefits of that kind of belonging. But it may be a task beyond our mandate, unless we think there's a reason why this association should not be. But if they've demonstrated that for all intents and purposes, they are bringing together clearing firms to provide a vehicle to enable them negotiate better, regulate themselves better, and streamline and achieve certain standards that enhance our business as customs, then obviously we would be grossly unfair to limit that right of association or the freedom to associate with whichever organization that you desire. This is my personal take of that question, but it's something that can be debated further. Perhaps you have reasons why you think we should have only one, and I would really interest myself in meeting you and having further engagements with you on that. Maybe you will persuade and change the thinking completely. So you're most welcome. Please advance your argument against it, or for the one system rule, that we have only one association where everyone belongs. I hope I have ably responded to you, but feel free to carry on with the engagement. The discussion can go on beyond this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred and Dan, for the responses. The presentation will be shared. I'd like to encourage our participants to send in their emails. The presentation will be shared after this. And also encourage you to keep the questions coming in. Our next question will go to
Dan. This is from Kasozi Peter, and he's inquiring, how many passwords do a company need to get a license? How many passwords do a company need to get licensed? The other question is from Anonymous, an anonymous attendee, and is inquiring, which institutes here in Uganda can I do this certificate of clearing and forwarding? Which institutes here in Uganda can I do this certificate of clearing and forwarding? The other question will go to Alfred, and this is from Kenneth. This is Kenneth from Mantrak, Uganda, and he's asking, we have had cases of reported unpaid assessments, reported unpaid assessments resulting from errors in your system. Will this affect our KPI performance? We have had cases of reported unpaid assessments resulting from errors in your system. Will these affect our KPI performance? I'd like to invite Dan to respond to the questions, and then Alfred will come after.
Thank you, Robert. The question on how many passwords does one need to get a license? Minimum one. At least one declarant from your company must have passed competence test, which means he has access to the customs system that gives you a license. At least one. There is no maximum depending on the volume you have as a clearing agent. Can have as many as 10, but at least one must pass the competence test to get a license. And the other question is the institutes that train clearing and forwarding. We have the one that is at URA training school, that does the East African Clearing and Forwarding Practicing Certificate. Then any other equivalent, which is there's one that is taught at the East African School of Taxation, then there's one at MTAC. So there are quite many. You just have to know which ones that will recognize the certificates that will recognize from URA. I think that's all.
I think you're done, Alfred.
Well, thank you, moderator. Question from Beth. Happened the reported aid assessments, which was
From system errors? Obviously not. We cannot visit system or effects of system errors on you, but it's important that you report such errors and we have them rectified immediately, because otherwise it really eats up on your, even on the bond that you're working with, or it just measures badly against you. But if it's a system error, then it's an error. Our requirements for this KPI is that you should be able to demonstrate to us that it's beyond your ordinary course of activities that such unpaid assessments occur. But like I told you earlier, if it's a genuine assessment that stands unpaid, then by law, you're responsible for it as much as the importer themselves. So it's important that you engage your client where you know that they're supposed to pay so that they do it in time. For the licensing period, we look at assessments not paid up to June, up to end of June. Beyond that, we are lenient. That is from the advert. When you look at it, you will equally see that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alfred and Dan. The next set of questions, this is from Anonymous. I think I'll direct this to Alfred. Sorry, this is from Leonard. He's asking, is there a way URA Customs Department can extend extra training to the declarants, just like the way URA trains their staff at once? Since customs clearing agents are more like URA, licensed sub-staff. He's asking, can the declarants be trained in once, just like URA staff? Okay, that's interesting. The other question is to Dan. This is from Anonymous. He's asking, where do we submit the C20 form? Asking, where do we submit the C20 form? This is yes.
Okay, I think we can take on those. There's one that asked Albert. I think Alfred hinted on this. He's asking, would the KPI on assessed not paid affect an agent's license? If yes, why? Since this is beyond the agent's control. Assessed, not paid. Would this affect an agent's license? They're saying this is beyond their control. I think we can respond to those as we check on the next questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Someone is asking, where do they submit the C20? The C20, this is the application for clearing agents license. This one is, it's now automated. There is no physical submission of this form. Everything that you are supposed to fill on this form was automated, so all you need is to go to the single window website. There is a link that will take you to the clearing agent's licensing window. You'll need your TIN as the username. The password is the same password you use on the URL portal to log in while you're filing returns. Of course, the first page will be the conditions and the requirements. The next page will be payment for fee, $50. It's already converted with the URI exchange rate. All you need is to select the bank that you'd wish to pay from, and you generate the PRN. When you make the payment, that PRN is automatically the gateway or the password to the C20, the automated C20 form. When you feed it in, it will give you the different fields where you can put the required documents, that is the scans of the certificate of incorporation, company form 20, tax clearance certificate, list of your staff and the directors, qualification of the staff that will be in charge of declaration, and you submit. That is the C20 submission currently, the automated C20 form. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Can clearing agents be trained at Chankwanzi?
That's an interesting question. I am aware that URA is still training its staff at the moment, and the mission is to ensure that everyone
is trained in that service, the service training. But I think it's definitely desirable that we all get that kind of training, as long as we do this kind of work, and so that we get equipped with certain values that are similar. So I think this is an area that could be taken up. Now this is where the associations actually jump in and come and demonstrate that, under the MOU, we can actually work out a framework to have a number of agents nominated and sent for this training. I know that it's it has financial implications as well, but I mean, with collaboration, I do not think the associations can fail to sponsor a number of their members to be trained. It's something that really we can take up, and I would advise that you raise it with the association so that it's picked up and discussed in the different fora with URA management, because it's really in our best interest that we have a caliber of agents that are focused on the mission that we are focused at executing. So if that training gives us that platform, I think it's something that definitely then should be considered. It's an area that really can be taken up. Why should I be responsible for an assessed not paid when we do not have control? Like I earlier stated, under the law, there is no difference between an importer and a clearing agent. So it is believed that the framers of that law really wanted to task you as a clearing agent with the responsibility to ensure that you explain to your client what they should expect to pay and understand if they need a payment plan, if they have any issues, because some of these assessed not paid come up where an importer is expecting to pay amount X. When the goods get here, then the amount has changed by a margin that they cannot automatically settle predominantly, but there are instances where there are other factors. We cannot unilaterally remove that responsibility. It's a responsibility that has been placed on clearing agents by law, and there are of course peculiar instances where we understand and say, no, much as you have this liability not paid, you can continue working, but we give you this period of time to ensure that you work around with your client and ensure that the tax is paid. Beyond which we are then compelled to either suspend your operations or in certain cases revoke, especially where we think it was occasioned by a fault on your part. So we need to know the magnitude of our responsibilities as clearing agents, because we cannot unilaterally, as you are waive it off. It would take amending the law to change that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan and Alfred, for responding to the questions. I'm kindly requesting our participants to keep their questions coming in. The next set of questions they are in relation to the KPIs. The KPIs that we give to the clearing agents. I'll give one to Alfred and the other to Dan. The first one is from Charles Webemezi, Charles from Bolore, and he's asking, some time back we had requested for a review of some of the KPIs. For example, the number of transit outstandings limited to 2. This is not achievable, especially when handling high volume
transactions. A proposal would be a percentage of the transactions. Secondly, the time of assessed but not paid to 50 million is very little, considering this amount may not even cover one entry. So the first part of the question is in regards to the outstandings, transactions limited to 2, and the second part of it is assessed not paid being limited to 50 million. The other, also in relation to KPIs, is from Alex. Alex is asking for a review on the parameters of KPIs, especially on time clearance. Since time clearance is only limited to 2 days, however, some of the delays that are affecting their business is not from their end, but could be systems delays regarding to system failure, or some of the officers in URA that are failing or taking long to delay, then selectivity issues, response time from DPC. So he's requesting for a review. Is it possible to have a review of the time clearance as a KPI? Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Robert. Charles is asking us to review the KPI parameter, number of transit outstandings, to consider the percentage instead of the number of T1s. This one, I think we did, most of these KPIs were set with the average that is in the industry. Is seeing that just comes from Borore, they must be having large volumes of transit, so it must be affecting them. But as we have been guided before, for these companies that this is a unique case, we cannot change the whole, because by the time we came up with a minimum of 2, that was the average that would not affect business of customs. So for large companies like Borore, having a minimum of 2 outstandings might be on a high end, or 2 a very big target for them, but for the rest of the companies this is achievable. So we can treat this as a unique case, which we can look into if there is any penalizing to be done in case they are not performing well. But let's also take on the suggestion that we can easily consider the percentage Then he's asking also the 50 million mark, the threshold of 50 million. Yes, every month we measure, we try to do the average of how much should be outstanding at the end of the month. And 50 million was the figure that we came up with. But again, as I said, for Boré, 50 million is too low for them. As I said on the previous parameter, we can also look into this as a unique case, because having 15 million as an outstanding, if there are 500 licensed companies and you allow everyone to have an allowance of 15 million, might have 250 billion outstanding every month, which can affect our performance as an authority. So we can look at this as a unique case for that case. The other one is asking the clearance time of the average of 2 days. Yes, all the entries that any clearing firm clears in a month should be within 2 days. As I said, this was also a researched figure, because the average clearance time of DPC is 11 to 12 hours. So we expect the other processes to take the next 12 hours and 1 day. So I don't think it is true. Yes, there might be some cases that delay, and I would encourage the clearing agents to always bring them to our attention, so that we know this delayed and has affected so and so's performance for this month. If there are any sanctions to be done, then we can look into it and retrieve the sanction. But I think 2 days is still working for us based on the KPIs on our side. As I said, for exports in DPC, 4 hours. For imports, 12 hours. So we wouldn't really get the reason to change the target for 2 days for clearing agents. That's all I can say on that.
Thank you, Dan, for responding to
Questions. The next will go to Alfred. This is from Anonymous again. He's asking how will they know of the competence tests. I think there's a new applicant. How will the applicants, how will they know
of the competence test? How will they be invited? The other question, Alfred hinted on it as well. This is from he's asking about Kenyan companies, Shipax Africa Limited, Shipax. They're asking about the Kenyan agents that are having access to our SCUDA system. And we would like to know whether they are monitored with the same KPIs as them. And whether they're monitored on the same KPIs as the Ugandan companies. That's it.
Well, thank you so much. The competence test, how will they know?
We shall definitely have several communication channels. We have your emails. We have the media. So definitely we shall give you adequate notice through the known channels, so that you're able to prepare and take part in the competence test. So that one, just rest assured that we shall give you adequate notice. The Kenyan agents that have access to the SCUDA system, we have. We've talked about this before. We've said so much about it that definitely we are going to ensure that we have a uniform measure for everyone. It's definitely an engagement that is ongoing between Uganda and Kenya to ensure that we have a framework for ensuring that we test and evaluate our performances against uniform key performance indicators. As you're aware, when you're rolling out some of these changes, you cannot do them at once. It definitely takes time. We have to ensure that our systems communicate optimally so that we're able to get all this information. I hinted in my earlier comments that, for example, when you look at offenses, our offices in Dar es Salaam and Mombasa will be handling these cases and providing us with returns on that information, which we shall use to evaluate the performances of the agents in the different countries. So definitely, our desire is to ensure that we have 100% uniform treatment, and it's something that we are moving quite fast to ensure that we achieve. So, Shipax Africa Limited, I want to definitely assure you that we have the commitment. We have a level, but of course we cannot say we have achieved it by 100%. But moving forward, this is something that we've taken up. It has been raised on many forums, and in the coming license season or period of license, this will be rolled out, and we shall have everyone evaluated at the same level, whether you're a Kenyan company, Ugandan company, Tanzanian company, I don't know. We'll ensure that you're treated as companies licensed to do clearing business in Uganda. And being East Africa, this is quite easy to achieve. So we'll have that rolled out, and we shall have people treated equally in this industry. Thank you.
Can I supplement on the test? Yes. On the test this year, when I'm going to do the test and everything, I wanted to mention that every year we have an average of 1,500 individuals who come take part in the competence test. And we have had a few challenges that we could avoid if we follow the procedures very well. Right now, as you submit the applications, the requirement is that you submit the email addresses, functional email addresses of the people that will sit for this competence test. It is very important that these emails are the right ones, because that's where we shall configure the account for one to sit the competence test. The competence test is online, and the only way to put some of the measures to make the test more transparent and fair is that we have the individuals, email addresses of the individuals that will participate in the competence test way beforehand, so that IT can guide you informing the accounts where they will find your test. So if we are handling over 1,000 people, it is very important that applicants, more so the directors of these companies, include everyone that will sit for the competence test. As we said, this year is different, so some of the conditions or the requirements that would ask before the test sometimes would reach the venue, and we try to be lenient. But due to the environment we are in right now, we may need to have everything ready by the time we announce the date of the competence test. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, for the response. The next question will go to Alfred. This is from
Rapid Kit. He's asking, are AEOs also supposed to go through the competence test? Are AEOs also supposed to go through the competence test? I think you can also take this
opportunity to probably share about the benefits that AEOs have, so that the clearing agents that have not yet rolled onto this program could take it up. So you could respond to that question, and also briefly on benefits of AEO and how the agents can come on board. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Robert. Authorized economic operators are they're what we call the very highly placed clients or agents whose compliance has been tested and they've complied with certain requirements that we give them to ensure that it's easier for them to comply, setting up certain infrastructure to enable them comply better with the customs laws. So the first thing that we provide them is we give them priority whenever they are presented. You know, when you come and they tell you this is a VIP, that's the treatment that we give them. This is to ensure that more people come on board and demonstrate their willingness and preparedness to comply
with the current processes and the laws as they are. So one thing that we do very seriously for our clients who are authorized economic operators is that we give them priorities in whatever transactions we are processing. Two, they have access to the system. They do self-clearance. Some of them do self-clearance. And then where we detect issues of non-compliance, when you know that this person is at a certain level of compliance, you don't come with all the biases. Of course, we're not saying we come with biases when dealing with people who are not AOs, but with AOs, we do more of boardroom negotiations. We actually sit and say, okay, it seems you must be having a challenge here. It's different from someone who has not come out and declared their affairs to you and indicated that we are actually committed to this cause. So the treatment is different for AOs. In terms of renewing of licenses, we have an arrangement for auto-renewal. Even if there are issues, we actually do them back end. So it's important that you strive as an agency to come to that level of the VVIP where the big boys play. So the treatment is different. And for me, I think that is the incentive. We reward compliance and as well as frown towards non-compliance. So basically, that is the pride and the privileges, and there are many more incentives that we have, many more benefits that go out to authorized economic operators. They'll engage and seek audience. In fact, they'll get audience with the commissioner in no time. Meanwhile, for you, the person who is not AO, there'll be a queue. The AO will walk straight and say, "Sir, may I have a word with you?" And the commissioner will stand up and say, "Please." And, regardless of how long the queue is. So that is the treatment, priority, and many other incentives. Like they highlighted earlier, we shall be rewarding our taxpayers between now and December. And
definitely you'll see a lot of the AEOs coming up, and we appreciate their partnership and collaboration in the trade that we undertake. Perhaps I'll request
my brother Noah to take up the competence, which the other question, I didn't seem to capture it.
Yes, I seem to have missed one of the questions. Okay, I guess we can pick it up later. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. The next question is from Chibi Yusuf. Sharing done.
He's asking what is the average pass mark for the monthly KPIs? What is the average pass mark for the monthly key performance indicators?
It seems, Alfred, you got the question?
No, it was about AOs and whether they require
To sit for the
to
competence
sit
test.
for the competence test.
Okay. AEOs are not required to sit for the competence test, but they are required to submit the application online with all the other documents. That is also a benefit for the AEOs. They get automatic renewal of their customs agency license. About the pass mark for the monthly KPIs, there are 12 parameters. And one of the parameters is measured by annual, that is the training of staff. So that is measured in June and December. So the monthly one would consider 11. The highest mark to be scored on each of those parameters is 10, from 0 to 10. So that means the highest mark is 110. So the pass mark would be 55. The pass mark would be 55 monthly. I know this year customs management has already shown they will consider to be lenient in terms of some of the parameters that were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. That is the clearance time, transit outstandings, assessed not paid, trainings. But some of the parameters that really show non-compliance, they will be a bit tough. That is offenses committed, tariff abuses, abuse of password use, captured errors. Those ones, they will be, the normal treatment will go on. So this month we are planning on sending you the 10 months KPI performance from Jan to October, so you'll be able to gauge where you fall before we start the licensing, before we conclude the licensing season. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
The next question is from Ochibi again. I'll forward it to Alfred. And he's asking, Kenyan Tanzanian agents are allowed to access our system, but Ugandan agents are not allowed to access their system. Is there a way URA could engage our neighbors for them to access their system? And the other question is from Shipaps Africa, and they're asking if they have a pressing question about KPIs. Who can they address it to, or who can they approach, or which office would they approach to resolve some of these KPIs? Okay, I'll repeat the question. The first is from Chibi. It says, how can Ugandans access the Kenyan and Tanzanian systems since they are accessing ours? And the other is, where can an agent or one that has a pressing question regarding KPIs, which office will they address them to? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. This is from Chiwi. Why
Are other agents from Tanzania and Kenya able to access our system, but we are unable to access, or the Ugandan clearing agents are unable to access the Kenyan and Tanzanian? Yes, we acknowledge this challenge. It has been there, and majorly because of the way our systems are. Simba, their tax identification numbers are about 11 digits. 11 digits, Uganda 10, and somehow our system has been able to connect into theirs. No, rather, we've been able to configure them into ours, but then somehow there's been an unfortunate delay on their part to grant us access for all the agents that require that access. But this is something that has been taken up as well. It's one of the urgent and pressing issues that we are working round the clock to resolve. We want to ensure that all Ugandan clearing agents who desire to access the Kenyan system, Simba, are able to access as much as the Kenyans are able to access the Ugandan system. What we observed is even those that have access, there seems to be, the functionality still seems to have a challenge. But we are really committed to that, and I can commit that the Commissioner is definitely going to take this up and have it provided a solution as soon as possible, so that we are able to access the different systems with which we operate, because there's really no point in proclaiming the East African community in customs clearances when practically we are not achieving that. You know that we have a framework for that kind of cooperation and mutual access to each other's systems. So we just need to work on the implementation to ensure that it's rolled out. And I totally appreciate the concern. This gives us the urgency with which to work and ensure that our people access each other's systems. So I thank you for your comment. We'll take this up and push it forward for urgent action. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred and Dan. We are almost winding up our session, and we're running short of questions. I hope we have all have been able to appreciate what has been presented by Dan and Alfred. But we still have time. I'd like to encourage us to send more questions, and we'll be able to respond to them. The presentations will be shared, as earlier mentioned. Please send your emails, and we'll be able to share with you a presentation after this. Another question I'm going to forward to Dan.
And this is in regards to the taxpayers, the people that are out there in the public that are dealing with clearing agents. This was earlier mentioned regarding fake agents, but just for emphasis, how would a taxpayer differentiate someone that is not licensed with URA, someone that is not an agent, and how would they be able to know that they're dealing with the right person, and also to be able to protect the image of the clearing agents and that of URA? How would a taxpayer be able to differentiate that? The other question will go to Alfred. This is in regards to liability of clearing agents. You spoke of the law of agency. How, for clarity, what is the liability of an agent to the principal, the person that is appointing them, in both criminal and civil? We've seen URA trying taxpayers as well as agents in the criminal aspect, and also going ahead to collect taxes from the civil aspect of it. kindly differentiate the liability of a clearing agent and in both aspects, criminal and civil. Done.
Okay, thank you, Robert. How can trade differentiate between a fake and a genuine clearing agent? Maybe what we can do for the ease of our viewers is we could spell out for them the do's and don'ts of while dealing with the clearing agent. One, there's a lot of outcry that some agents have taken my money, the goods are not coming, but whenever we try to get the end of the matter, we find the person that actually the trader dealt with was either middleman or, how can I say it, broker. So the real agent wasn't in the picture until they asked him to capture the entries. The do's of while dealing with the clearing agent, all the cargo that is unaccompanied is captured by clearing agent. If you're coming with your little merchandise and you have it maybe on the plane, that one you don't need a clearing agent to capture it. The officer that capped will help you to clear it through customs. Or you're in the bus, those ones are passenger baggage. That one you don't need a clearing agent. But for the unaccompanied goods, that's when you need a clearing agent. And how do you appoint a clearing agent? You must have a TIN. A TIN with the password, you go on the URL website, log in, and there is a tab for you to appoint a clearing agent. That clearing agent will have given you his TIN, that is the tax identification number. You put that in, the system auto validates it and says, yes, this one is licensed or not. Then you choose the period within which you want him to be your clearing agent. You can either give him 1 week, depending on the volume of your goods, 1 week or 2 weeks. Now, everything that is done on your TIN, you get a notification either by mail or by a message into your profile on the URL portal. The taxes that you're supposed to pay have a PRN. Do not pay anything outside that. The only thing that we would expect you to pay are the functional fees to the agent. But anything to do with tax, it must have a payment registration number. So how do you tell that this is a fake clearing agent? We have this displayed on most of our websites. That is the website that we work with, a single window, and clearly shows the director and the employees. We are much more comfortable. Yes, we know directors most of the time are doing other business, but if you could deal with the directors first, then he can give you someone to handle you. We have the list with CASITA, the Traders Association, but even us, if you come in, it's an open door policy here. You can come in and say, is this clearing a genuine one or a fake one? Then we can give you all the information you need. There has been some administrative measures that we put with bonds, the bonded warehouses, that for anyone to enter a bonded warehouse, they must present an ID and they must be in uniform, sure that they are clearing firms, because that's where most of the people are defrauded from. You find someone in the bond and it is the clearing agent, and you start dealing with him. Clearing agents have their IDs displayed, they have their uniforms, they might not have chips or logos like us, but at least they have a t-shirt of the firm with their logos on. But this can be made by anyone. The most genuine part is to try it on the system, put their TIN. If they are not licensed, the TIN won't be validated or won't give you the option of appointing them as clearing agents. That's all I can say now.
Well, thank you so much.
Robert, mine is simple: to draw a line between the criminal and civil responsibility of the clearing agent?
Well, when you look at Section 147, which talks about the liability of a duly authorized agent, once you are authorized and you perform your function, then you take the responsibility for the actions that you've made on behalf of the owner of the goods. And for that purpose, you're treated as though you were the actual owner of the goods. I could actually just get it to you verbatim. For purposes of this act, you will be deemed to be the owner of such goods and shall accordingly be personally liable for the payment of any duties to which the goods are liable, and the performance of all acts in respect of the goods which the owner is required to perform. So you have that responsibility, and it stretches to whatever the owner of the goods was supposed to do. Now, that scope, when you look at it, seems to cover the civil liability. However, when you look at your criminal liability, for you to be criminally liable, we have to prove the mens rea and the actus reus, that you performed the criminal act and you had the mental preparation for it, or the criminal intent, the mental intent, the criminal intent. Let me just put it that way. Now, when you look at other sections that provide for criminal sanctions in this law, like Section 200, the prohibited action is if you make any declaration to customs, or if you handle goods that are uncustomed, under Section 200, you're criminally liable. Now, that can draw in both the agent and the importer, depending on their participation in the criminal act. So we have both responsibilities. You can be criminally liable as well as in the civil arena. So you can be tasked to pay the taxes as well as pay the penalties or serve the sentence as prescribed by law. So we cannot say you're only liable in the civil arena when in fact your participation in handling the transaction draws you into the arena of the criminal liability as well. So I hope this clarifies your concern. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alfred and Dan. Also thank our participants for sending in the questions. Please send your emails. We'll be sending the presentation after this. And we still have some more time. Any
questions that you may be having or you could have forgotten, please send it out. We'll be able to respond to it. Someone has asked, Paul is asking about retiring of the bond, retiring of bonds upon validating of T1s. He's saying there are those that are the bonds that are not retiring, and how can URA help on this? I would like to inform Paul that we have a reconciliation section in warehousing. Ideally, all T1s that are validated should have the bond retired. But in the event that they are not retired due to a system error, we have a reconciliation section in warehousing that is able to resolve such an issue if it arises. The other question, again, is in regards to auto conversion, retiring of the RCTG bond due to the auto conversion. Still, again, with the auto conversion, once the T1 is validated from the WT8 as it is converted to the IM7, the bond should be able to retire. But in the event that it has not retired, we can still reconcile that issue. I'd like to take this opportunity again to remind you of our taxpayers appreciation season. It's ongoing. It started in October. We are reaching out to our clients, our stakeholders, appreciating them for the working with us over the years, and most especially this last financial year, and for contributing to paying of taxes to our economy. Please, we'll be reaching out to you in the different districts of this country, and we'll be appreciating you in various ways. I would like to thank all our viewers for tuning in to this webinar. We'll be having several other webinars that will be coming up in the course of time, and we'll be reaching out to the public, we'll be reaching out to our stakeholders, sharing with you any updates and the strategic way that TRA is going with regards to collection of taxes. The topics will be sent to you through your emails, and you'll be able to access our webinars with the links that will be provided. I would like to thank all of you for participating, and we encourage you to stay safe in this pandemic. Do not take it for granted. Please wear your masks, wash your hands, and keep a safe distance. And URA is here to serve you. We shall be there to work with you as we develop Uganda together. Thank you very much.